Generator.
So funny, they designed such a nice camera.
What's that?
They designed such a nice camera,
Oh, yeah.
but they didn't tighten the screws.
No way to lock in the angle?
No.
Yeah, because you need that, because different angles, and then you need to lock them in so you get the light down.
Yeah, especially when a cord's hanging off the back,
Yeah,
right?
keep pulling the back.
Yeah. But masking tape goes around it.
Then we'll pull it this way a little bit.
Tighten the screw there. And make sure.
This will be pretty good. You can stand in as we down here, dude.
A little bit, but I guess I can take this down too if I need to. But I haven't heard any issues. Let's see. This is what you're right now. So if I move this tripod back,
You go behind us, on it or what?
let me see. Yeah. That looks pretty good. Let me see. Okay, so
So you got enough left and right and top. I'm not gonna ruin you in the last 10.5 hours or so.
okay, so let me. This. While you're doing it, I'm going to be putting stuff in for power for a minute while you're speaking.
With you, Frank.
I need some more milk crates.
Okay, how many?
4.
Mic check one, mic check one.
Mike's not here.
Garden.
So that works. Mike's not here. TV's plugged in. You got an extra cord here if needed.
Okay.
Rock and roll. Hello. Hello. How are you? Really good. How you doing?
We're getting ready. We're almost ready. Try to hook up the picture. But when I'm going to put it on the internet, I'll just replace the video section with the pictures as you're talking about.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna move the computer here. Just maybe put the chair here so you don't walk into the table.
Perfect. Yeah, that's just a little bit.
They're gonna go right here. Upside down.
Zoom people are gonna be pissed.
Right.
No one likes to be waiting on Zoom.
No one likes to. You listen. You tell them they don't like to be waiting on Zoom.
Man, do I look good.
Sorry about the distortion you're seeing.
Say what?
Okay, here, let me.
Hey, Mel.
No.
I want you volunteering. No, I want you to check in.
I don't know. Or the horse.
That's probably Frank.
It's huge, 8 of them. Yeah.
You with Frank?
With the mouse trap. Yeah.
What are you dumping?
I saw that big popping last night at the face.
Did you bring a soil sample?
Yes. Can I bring it? Yeah, you
Doesn't come in good in the car.
Oh, I was waiting until after the talk.
So Roger's an expert in soil too.
Okay, let me go get it.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. Is this yours?
Yeah. I'm just.
Good thing I brought my boots.
What? You remember the photos?
The original.
Yeah.
The one that I bought.
Yeah, I'll just.
Sure.
This makes a scene. So
But
we're just gonna get it going with
that
that.
one is quick and it's growing tall and beautiful. But I don't know if they will get through. Do they all get through? Or they don't?
Okay.
2 years? How long did you got? Oh, it's been. No, maybe this season will be good. But remember, you have to let the growth first. Grow, right? Yeah. The point is going down. Oh, it spreads like that? Yes. Doesn't go too high. Doesn't grow too high? No. Oh, that's good. I don't want it high. No. What is more like this? What about let's see. The avocado I bought at the store. I will show you my stuff and I have different avocado more. Let me clean this.
Most people sign up by Zoom.
Sorry for the delay or waiting. There's two good books I recommend everyone. That's growing your soil, and it's about having a work plan. These are the name tags.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Can everybody hear?
Actually, I can't.
Message in the chat section in Zoom if you can hear. It's
So Frank is the co-chair for Southern California.
Ramon, I think if I'm saying that right. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Does it come out clear?
Yes.
Roger. Here, can you test the speaking? You want to use the microphone? Let's see.
You can hear me without the microphone. can't you?
Yeah, but just my because
Oh, okay.
you have a generator going in the background and
Right over the hat.
Yeah.
Real close. All
is
right.
it on?
Roger, do you have a business card?
I was thinking all the way down here. Might have some here. There we go. We got it. I'll lay this down.
Latest and greatest. You know, I don't know what
How's the sound now? We spoke a second ago.
You okay on that? There's one of those.
I'm gonna send you my contact information.
What, is that a threat?
Yeah, it is a threat. It's a really cool app. It's a business card. What's nice about it is we can change anything. I think it changes it on everybody's.
Really?
Okay.
Here's the business card.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, here, give me. This here.
What are these gonna be?
Well, let me, I'll do the first one.
Sure, sure.
Sure.
Hey, Frank.
John.
Oh, John. John, I knew you'd answer the right name eventually. Hey, here's another one you might be interested in.
Okay. So bad. Solve your organic bio.
Okay, here, John, we're starting the meeting.
Okay.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not what?
Hi, this meeting is brought to you by the South Orange County chapter of California Rare Fruit Growers.
Can't hear you.
We're a 501c3 nonprofit, public benefit in mind for education and also pooling of resources. So all the members get benefited. Some of the projects we do is get buckets like this that are normally going to be recycled, but they're actually not. They end up going to a landfill. And they're really good buckets. Even have some of them have rubber gaskets in them. So great for oils, for feeds, 2 great products coming here. So you can do it for animal food too. And then 2, 3, 5-gallon buckets. I don't have the 3 with me, but they're available to members of our club. And also we get these buckets here that can be drilled holes in it using as nursery pots. Thing on those normally they'd be going to a landfill instead of getting reused. And we also have a number of other things that are benefits for the members. And we got to get speakers like Roger and others to give more information so that people can be more efficient with the growing of their plants and spend less time going, I grew this for 5 years and I didn't get any fruit because I didn't do this, or I bought the wrong plant, wasn't grafted, the graft overshadowed, seedling overshadowed the root graft, various other reasons. And we want to find out why a commercial grower can grow a plant that's 6 feet tall in a year, and I'm sitting at a 6-inch plant after a year near death. And great speakers on soil, pruning, soil amendments, plant hormones, all the various things that can impact the growth of plant, from what acidity of the soil is, what lighting conditions of the plants it is, temperature, all that stuff. Our speakers in the future, we're targeting to answer some of those questions so people can make informed decisions on their own for their own environment, because the environment is different everywhere. Even my neighbor who has a pool has a little bit different environment than I do. So let's have Roger take over. This is Roger from, how do you say the company name again?
Aguinaga.
You say it, I can't.
Okay.
Okay. And he's been in the soil business pretty much longer than I've been alive. So he knows way more than I could imagine.
I learned from a lot of mistakes. That's why I have years on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically it. Good morning. My name is Roger Aguinaga. I want to operate Aguinaga Green. There's several topics that we could get into. The expertise that I would give you would be on compost. Okay. But backing up a little bit, I think the one of the better things to do is, if you're going to start a garden, I would suggest that you test your soil, your native soil that you've selected, or the spot you've selected to put your garden in. If you're going to do it in pot, is nice. You need a nice soil amendment. I have a preference to soil. If you can find a large enough pot to put it in, simply because in a pot, the plant is dependent on you to water it. It can't do much about the environment, the hot sun or cold or whatnot. Soil has a little bit better because the natural nutrients in the soil, if you added them not balance the nutrients, it's essential simply because the plant is always at the ready and they're there to take. In a pot is what you give them, what you are able to ascertain as far as information, so you could put it in the pot next to the roots and so forth. And also the pots, sometimes I've noticed the one that Frank has out here, they're bigger. Sometimes the pots are so restricted that the plant, especially the bigger ones like a tomato plant, they become root bound because it just restricted to it and they go around and around and around. Not the best thing for a plant. So if you can do it in soil, that's great. You get the nutrients, you get natural balances there of elements, minerals, and whatnot for the plant. And as far as water, you can water and it stays in there for the plant to use a little longer than in the pot, or maybe more consistently, simply because the pot, you fill it, drains out, and it keeps on draining and draining and draining. And then if you have dark pots, the problem with that is the sun hits it. If you have it, the sun hits it, transforms or pushes that heat onto the soil then pushes it onto the root structure, and then it's a little too hot for the roots. The roots should be white. If you ever open them, expose it, that's a healthy looking root. They have some issues. I would suggest, as I did earlier, to get your soil and have it tested. If you can't, you will use your anywhere from $75 to $150, depending on what you want done to it. I would suggest that if you don't already have one, have a small pH meter to test the alkalinity on it, and one that has EC, the electrical conductivity of the soil that you have. And then check the, if you're going to put some products into it to amend, put those in your, in the, to do is put it in, use distilled water, because you don't pick up any elements out of the tap or whatnot. And what you do is you put in a little cup, could be a coffee cup, put it in there, and then add distilled water to make a paste out of it. And that paste is a little bit of water flowing on top, but mix it well so you can extrapolate whatever nutrients or salinity or pH, whatever is in the material. And then you can put it in there. What you do is take a neutral solution and clear water, I mean the water that you're using on to mix it. What you do is you clean it out with that in the 7 pH solution, then you dial the number to sit on 7. So you're starting with a neutral solution, and then you dip it out in the water, and then you blow it out, dry it a little bit, then put it into the paste. I'm going to lose this thing, I think. You put it in the paste, and it'll start giving you. This would be better. You put it in the solution, and it'll give you pH for the alkalinity or acidity, and then EC for electrical conductivity. That gives you a huge jump on what you're doing with your soil and the amendments you're putting in it. Don't be afraid to get an amendment. if you're not sure. Let me back up a little bit. You're all pretty good at your computers. There's a lot of information in computers that people share in the gardening and the horticulture and so forth. A tremendous amount, and people are eager to share that information. If you have a specific plant that you want some background information on, you can dial that in, and people, they'll call you back, or if you want to have a discussion with them, or just look for the information and glean it. That would be a great way to get a jump on things. Get the information you need. Okay, you have a plant. Is it an acid loving plant, or does it want a neutral pH, or does it want an alkaline pH, like your desert plants for a desert scape? If not, then you can determine that. You can determine also from the solution or amendment that you're going to put in. Do the same thing with the amendment. Put it in a neutral coffee cup. Make sure it's clean, and put that distilled water in it. Make a paste, and be careful not to pull the paste to you, or you'll wear it like I normally do. It'll pop out of that, and you'll have it on your clothes. So push away, turn it, push away, poke it up and down, so you start getting the solution up to the top, and you put it in. It's an inexpensive way of getting you a jump start. You save $100, $150. It'll give you information. The information you get from the internet will give you additional information that you can utilize and move it towards your project. Now, having said that, compost, as far as the methodology, there's a lot of different items you can use organic as a compost. My company started, my dad started the company in 1947 when he got out of the Navy. He had and there were 4 boys and 4 girls in the family. They come from a large family. So he ordered up the boys first so they could help him, and the girls, they put in a request for later. So that's what it came, 4 boys first, 4 girls later. So think about that. Anyway, when we were actually doing in the 60s, we were covering all of Irvine companies, agricultural fields, their groves, their celery fields, their tomato fields, asparagus. The asparagus, when the asparagus bush grows up into a bush, they cut it, and then they mulch it in. And then we come in and put the fertilizer organic on top of it. They mulch that in, and then just wait for it to pop up. I remember a few years before, when we were doing that, in the middle 60s or something, we had probably about 1,500 acres to do in about 3 weeks. That's during the Thanksgiving season, okay? And we worked, we had the spreaders, the trucks, and the loaders, and most of them were my brothers and I. And we covered those in the 3 weeks. We had lights in the back of the truck. We went 20-hour days in 3 weeks. And we got it done. We were just finishing one up on the corner of Jeffrey and not Warner, but Barranca, which is Barranca now. And they had some of the first homes in Irvine there and the other places. And then we had the foreman come up and said, we have to quit now. Why? He said, we've only got 20 acres to finish the whole 1,500. He said, yeah, I just got a bond from the president of the company and said, we have to quit. Well, what happened? He said, well, you got to call in, and we just dusted some lady pumpkin pies. They were Jason. He said, we're just going to quit it right here, There's a little dust with it, but I think it just drifted a little bit because we were real close. The houses backed up to the acreage, and so it was difficult not to. But we did it. So anyway, so he said, well, sorry. And he said, well, you're sorry. I'm sorry. Where am I going to get pies right now? So I can go and find them. So he went and found it. Anyway, so we've had a lot of experience in the agriculture. We had some, here, maybe I can do this. Frank, would you fancy, this is a list of material that's out in the market that we made, but this is just the horticultural side. There's about 20, 21 in there, and we have a lot more. We have about twice that many in the agriculture and commercial end of the business. Anyway, so we have a the compost, you try to be selective. You use a lot of material. We use clean green material. By clean green, it's not the curbside. It's material that's brought in from landscapers, homeowners. It's clean material. They prune their plants and their shrubs and their trees, and they bring them in. So there's no contamination to them. We found out a long time ago that it's difficult to use the curbside material because you have 3 containers there. Frank and I have talked about this on several occasions. And what happens, you'd probably need 7 or 8 containers out in front of your home to specifically segregate all the contaminants, plastic. Right now, curbside material, the green waste there gets the plastic, it gets the bottles, it gets sometimes the cans, but mainly enough, it gets the dog litter, the cat litter, the battery acid that you need to turn in a battery without any acid, and a host of other things. So most of the time that material, I'm not downing the collection companies. I think they do a good job considering what they get. You know, I think they do a good job on it, but they have to try and clean up, because what you should be more concerned about is what you don't see. Because the green waste does a great job of absorbing liquids, odors, and everything else. And so it's difficult on time. So this brings us to your composting at home. What you have to do, what we do is when we compost, we segregate a line that's ground up, and that's independent line windrow of compost. We don't add any more to it. We start line 1, finish that out, line 2, and then they come in a rotation fashion to the point where they get composted. It has to be turned every 5 times in 15 days, 3 times every 3 days. And the material has to reach temperatures of 132 minimal, because that's what will kill the weed seed. We go a little bit higher to kill some of the pathogens, E. coli, salmonella. You do get E. coli, salmonella in green waste. It'll come up because it's an organic composting product. And think about it, if you're putting scraps in your compost and so forth, you're what the word did I say? You can grow that contaminants more. You have to do a great job. Why? Because you're feeding your family with it. You have to do an exceptional job. I think it's to cut them somehow, get as much uniformity in the scraps, smaller the better. That way the bacteria get into it and are able to break it down. And they do a good job. But you have to maintain the temperature and the moisture. Add the water, it raises the temperature, and then when you turn it, has to be turned to get the aeration. Those 3 items will give you a consistent compost. It has to be consistent. And then you can use it. And when you reach a level, stop there, start another one. Don't keep adding to that top. It does work okay. But what are the chances of you not getting some of the top spilled over and contaminated to the bottom one? Okay. So some people are really good at what they do. John does a great job on his, because he knows he's gone through a lot of experience. He does a great job. And everybody develops a methodology by how you're going to do it, where you're going to do it, and what are you going to put in there, or are you going to leave it out. The putting of table scraps is okay. I think we're trying to divert things from the landfill, but you really have to be careful. If you're going to use that, you're going to have to be real careful about integrating it into your compost and finish up. Keep the temperatures, the moisture, and the aeration consistent so you can get a good product. That product will break it down. You develop microbes and bacteria that will help you to break that down. And those microbes go in the soil, and they will break out the elements in the soil or with the other amendment that you're going to use. And they'll give you an array of different elements. They'll give the balance there. They will also do the complete breakdown and make more nutrients available to the plant. They'll break it down. The plant knows what it needs. Sometimes it can't break it down to assimilate it. The bacteria that you create out of the compost, chewing, if you will, for some who can't chew. That's a bad analogy, but yeah, you make it smaller. They can't swallow, they can't do, but they can break it down in the plant healthier, because So we have different elements. If you have any questions I'm going through, please feel free to ask, okay? We'll cover a lot more as we go on.
So when you're talking about the composting and how you have to maintain the temperature and the air and the water,
Yes,
are you putting that material in a bin, or how are you doing that?
well,
Or
Ron,
is
can
it-
you repeat her question? Because I don't think they can hear on Zoom.
beg your pardon?
Can you just repeat her question? Because I don't think they can hear.
Oh,
on
I'm
Zoom.
sorry.
So my question is, when you're discussing the elements of a good compost,
Mhm.
are you using the compost in a bin, or are you using it in a bucket, or what are you putting the compost in?
Okay, young lady indicated what apparatus you put the compost in order to attain the temperature, the moisture and the heat with it. You could, there are some out there in enclosed barrels or something that you can have some aeration through it. You can turn it and you get the oxygen in it. We do windrow composting, and we do about 1,000 yards at a windrow, and we have maybe more 15 or 20 windrows going at one time. Yeah, you can choose. There are a lot on the market, or you can make your own. Something where you can actually turn it, air will come into it. If you watch excessive water, it won't liquefy because the aeration aerates something and dries it, and then you keep the right moisture on. One of the things suggests is get a temperature rod. It gives you the heat on it for it, and you can just poke it through. They come. There's an outfit in San Diego that puts them out, and they're 3, 4 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet. And you put it in the solution or in the material and get your temperature. 132. We go a little bit higher to assure that we get it, but that's got to be controlled. If we decide to go to 140 or 142, a little better, it's fine. If you go too high, it gets hot, you burn it, and you don't want it with compost, you want it with ash, which is of no benefit to our or farm for that matter. So you have to watch this. It's just too much. Okay. Those are available. Those are, and some outfits make some pretty darn good ones, but they're small. And sure enough, that's what you need, a small one. Not building a commercial business on it. Let's see what else we have. The material will be can be applied just about anything, but also, and I come back to the same point. Shear amendment, your soil, you can do in the soil. Okay. If you got a little garden plot, I do prefer the soil, but you can be. What you do is, if you're going to put in a pot, use a little finer mixed material, mix with a little coarser material to get some drainage, but also some lateral movement of moisture to the roots, so you can sustain moisture to the not wet, but damp enough to get it in there and create a good environment for the plant. Anybody, if you have any questions, go ahead and we'll get covered. Also, I had some of the most common things that people have indicated, for plants. If you have a for example, when you're planting and fruits, stone fruit or something, they need a sandy soil, a well drained. If you have one that's a little too sandy, you can add compost to it. It holds it, but compost biodegrades over a period of time. What I've done on a couple of occasions in the backyard, you have clay, I will put a well-drained material on the bottom, dig a hole, put it on the bottom, set it on there on sand or whatever you want to do, and then bring it up, backfill it. And when you get to the top half or the middle half, mix a little bit. If your soil is located on your instruments pretty well with a lab, and it's got a little clay or sandy loam to it, mix that with the upper. That way, when you water, it slows it down, takes it laterally, and then when it gets down below the halfway, then it drains well. Because peaches and plum, stone fruit, and avocados do not like to be standing in water or wet solution and whatnot, because you get phytophthora, which is a root disease, and as I know, there's no real cure. You can't fumigate against it. So now it's a soil disease. So you have to be careful when you amend your soil and make it desirable for the plants, that you don't go overboard. And so you can always add a little more compost, a little more soil later on. But when but peaches and stone fruit are permanent items. It's not like a tomato, you pull it out and you can correct whatever was not properly done later on. Get some notes put on here that might be of value. And try to do it, your compost in a small scale, not overwhelm it, the instrument or the apparatus that you're using, okay? So that the soil goes up and down, or the amendment goes up and down. That's where you get some of your air, some of your movement on it. Don't fill it to the top where you've got nothing but a solid mass that you're not getting any. You'll get water to it, but you won't get aeration simply because that solid mass will hold no moisture. So try and get it to the scale that you need, and it'll work out for you real well. Clay soils, you can amend. One of the interesting things about Irvine is that it's clay from Turtle Rock all the way down through here, all the way to Minnesota, Tuss, and so forth. You can amend it by adding compost, but you have to remember compost will break down, displace, and give you the aeration, but it also give you more water retention. So it's one of these things that the doctor says take a pill a day. I'm going to take 5 because I'll feel 5 times better. No, they're balanced there. So you've got to keep on. You can always add more compost to it later, or you can add a little bit if it drains to it. You can add a little bit of clay. We had a young lady that had a flower bed on the island in Balboa, and she couldn't keep water to her plants. So we said, well, you don't want to go too expensive. So we had some sand loam soil. We gave her some. She mixed it in with the flower bed and got the retention. I said, don't put a lot. You got the retention of the moisture in there, and she was happy. It held the moisture, and she put a little compost and so forth, and it came out real well. Unless you have any questions, that I don't want to keep you here all day long either. It's going to slow down.
Carlos is colors.
Our own color that comes in on the state. We buy that outside, and the quality is good. We've learned several techniques in producing that. And one of the things is when it comes off the truck, we grind it in Irvine. It comes off the truck, you pre-water it. It opens the pores on the wood, and when you paint it, the wood finds those pores because the water dehydrates, dries up, and those pores are open while the water's there, and it stays in. So you plant, put its name on it, and people will give you the information you need from their experience.
You need to define what a cubic yard is. A lot of people may not know what it is.
A cubic yard is 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. 3 by 3 is 6 times 3 is 29, 27. 27 cubic feet in a yard. Usually, as an example, a 6-foot pickup will handle a yard, maybe a little more. An 8-foot pickup, you can get 2 yards on the back of it. And we sell a lot of material in pickup trucks. You
And compare that to, let's say, a Home Depot bag of soil.
Pricing?
No, but let's say how big is
Well, they go from the size of the bag to Home Depot as advanced. They go from a cubic foot and a half to 2 cubic feet.
so then how many would that be in a cubic
Either
yard?
13 or 18, one of the two. And then if you look at the cost, the labor and so forth, it's probably about minimal twice as much, and not 3 times as much as a bulk pickup. If you're not doing your pickup, you drop it in and you go. You don't have bags that you're paying for advertising or color and so forth. We put material in bags years ago. It was a pretty good looking bag. I spent a lot of money. And at that time, you look 20, 30 years ago, that bag was 85 cents because it was 4 colors in it. So today they're more expensive because plastic is more expensive. Everything's more expensive than that. I'll give you an insight on one of the things we did. We have a friend, I think you got a card, says Sobek, miss, on the card. Yeah, okay, well, he developed bacteria in a solution. They were having a problem up north in the vineyards because they have an acid soil. And what occurred was they had they were having the diebacks of the clones. They're dying on because of in an acidic condition. Really, like they have a 4.5 to 5.5. It's almost the acidic of a peat moss, of sphagnum peat moss. And you can't go, they're usually like a 6.7 to a 7, something in there. So what we did is we put together the compost, 1 cubic foot in the hole when they dig it, that is part alkaline and the soil is acidic. You put them together and you come right about a 7, and they did great. Simple solution. Sometimes the most simple solutions are in front of you and you can't quite get them. They're not real technical. You get a test of what your soil is and ask, where do I need to be? I said, okay, what do I need to get in order to be in that place? It's simple, just do an alkaline, but an alkaline material that is of quality. It's not going to cause you some problems later on. That's one example we use it. But yeah, we have agriculture. We have also bioswale products that we put together where the cities are not allowing water on projects to run out in the street, and they're going to encourage it with homeowners and so forth on the new tracks. They don't want the water off your property, so it's running in the street. So we created a bioswale in where it's made up of different components that indicate what the architect wants as a percolation rate. So how fast I want to go down before it goes out the street, and what's the slope and whatnot. We develop that and it goes down. They want it in the water table. Nothing is a better filter than good old Mother Earth. They'll clean it up and do it. So it's got to go in there. So we use some compost, we use some other products on there to determine what is the desired percolation rate. So that's becoming more popular or more demanding in projects. So there are a lot of things that beyond the horticulture that come into play. That's strictly, and then they have to be able to sustain life. In other words, you have to be able to plant something in it and grow to reflect the project. So there are a lot of new things coming out, and a lot of things that need improvement and so forth. And we've been lucky to get in the forefront of some of them and move forward with it. Yes.
My question, Frank is also aware of this. There's so much chlorine in our water now. What does that do to the soil?
Well, the high chlorine has an impact on the uptake of magnesium and calcium and a few other elements. If you have too much of it, chlorine, 150 parts per million is the level that you should not go beyond. And I'll tell you, some of the composts do have 200 and 300 because that's part of the natural. You can irrigate and bring them down. But that's something to look at. You can, most of the simple test kits do not cover chlorine and so forth. That's why sometimes the soil test is a good idea to have. The reason is because that soil is yours for life. That's what you're going to be growing in. So if you correct it initially, it should stay pretty well corrected if you're mindful of what you put it in by checking the pH and the EC and so forth every time you put it in. And also, you require some of those amendments. If you have the time, you could get them in a pot, put them in there and plant something in it and see where it goes. You're trying to augment your soil. This is a straight amendment. It should react pretty positively. But you're doing this, or you're amending your soil, your clay soil, your sandy soil. Sandy because you want it to hold more water. Clay because you want to break up the clay soil, you get some drainage on it. And that's the effect that a good part of the organic material has on clay and the other extreme of sandy soil. Any other questions?
Well,
You know how you were saying that some of the green waste you don't pick up residential because you want to minimize contaminated, you want it clean
Yes.
waste. Now for us composting at home, if I buy an organic vegetable and fruits,
that should be clean, right? But
Yes.
if I don't buy organic, would that affect the quality of my compost?
No, it really depends on really the effect of other products into the homemade compost. Take a test on it. Do as much as you can with what the instruments that I suggested you purchase and have. And then be very careful on ones that are based on manure, because manure has a high salinity. Okay, you have to watch that. It's a great soil amendment as far as growing because it has such a cross section of minor and major micronutrients and nutrients. But every time you put another spoonful or shovelful, your rate goes up. If you look at the test, I forget what they call it, but if you look at steer manure, you look at horse manure, and you look at chicken manure, on the test, you should not be putting anything. Your soil should not read over 3.0 on the salinity level. And when you use the others, you use it sparingly. Horse manure has 18 points on it, but you're only using 10 or 15% or 5% on it. So you can calculate that, you can keep it down. Steer manure has about in the 20s. So a little bit goes a long way. You know, it's not a 5-pill dosage, it's a 1-pill dosage. Chicken manure, as great as that because of the carbon to it, it's a great fertilizer, but it has 60 points of salt in it. So you're limited to what you can use. More is not the answer. A little bit, and then be mindful and be grateful that you're getting a cross section of micronutrients, because the more you put on, the more salt you get in, the plant goes downhill from that point. Or people start adding more water and say, okay, so it didn't die of a salt burn, it died of being drowned. Too much water, you know, and you can do that. It's easy to do. I've seen a lot of people that look at the top of their garden. Oh, one other thing I want to suggest, they look at the top of the garden, looks dry, so they put water. If you were to dig down 2 or 3 inches, the moisture would be there. It would be a whole lot more moisture. But get a moisture meter, put it in there. It'll show you some will give you the pH and EC also, and the moisture. You put it down, push it down. It'll give you readings differ, but I want to say good, bad, or too much water, or whatever. Now, so you put down a little bit deeper, close to the roots, and you know that's where the roots are. That's what dials in how much water you have close to the roots. So you can utilize that as a measurement. You can get them at Home Depot. I think they're $12 or $15, and you have it for life. And you can check everything else that you want to do on it. So they're good little things that are out there that you can have that'll help you develop a better amendment and basically eventually a better plant.
And find out all pH. Don't leave them in the ground. Take them out and then use them when you're going to do the test. Otherwise, they'll just corrode in the ground.
They'll corrode and they have the sensor. Well, yes, someone asked us not to leave them in the ground. If you're done with them, rinse them out, dry them out, and put them away. You can corrode that, and then you'll get either no reading or a bad reading, or it's ineffective. One of the two. Good point. Right?
I've been struggling with this myth here. Garlic peel, onion peels, are they good to go into the ground?
You know, I'm not acquainted. Frank, would you answer? Young lady asked about garlic peels.
I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah.
It just breaks
Well,
down.
Onion peels, do they affect?
Well, you know, onions are good. I freak out my family because I'll take a red onion and eat it like an apple. It's good for the immune system. Yeah, it is. And I'll sit there and I'll eat one, and everybody's just gagging. And he says, I'm not in the mood to make new friends, so that's why I'm eating the onion. But yes, you're right. There are something, the qualities are in it. Yeah, I won't say no. I wouldn't say no. There's probably some good qualities that you can add that to it, and it'll give you some good results.
Well, I think John might know because I've given him that stuff to compost.
I have,
And once it breaks down pretty quick, it's just like everything else, isn't it?
so the only thing that I'm concerned about is like, you know, like black walnuts. You know, they, what's that chemical that's in those, that prohibits other plants from growing? I don't think onions have that.
Well, eucalyptus has that too.
Well, that's an essential oil. That's a little bit different. Black walnuts has
what is it?
I've
Herbicide thing or whatever it is, the thing that deters growth of plants and group.
Yeah, there could be some elements in there that are not balanced and whatnot, and they can't give you, but there is some, I would think that there'll be some definite benefits out of it. I eat red onion and I just turned 80, so it's not a bad, yeah, June 26th.
quick answers, I don't think there's anything that inhibit. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
I
all-
would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so, yes.
Thank you.
Let's see, what else? Anybody any questions or?
Wait.
Yes. Yes,
So
ma'am.
how do you minimize like bugs?
Minimize what?
In the compost.
In the compost. Usually the bugs will come in if a plant is weak. If you keep the balance on to keep the plant healthy, they won't attack it. But they can sense, John.
I think she might mean if you have a compost pile. Is that what you mean? If you have a compost pile, how to decrease like flies, stuff like that.
How do you create, how that, well, flies, how do you create, well, flies will be attractive, whatever decomposing them. We turn it. And if you keep it, we turn it and eliminate any bugs that either might be in it or gotten in it, or it will not attract any others, because you've got that heat that's on it. The heat will keep them off from landing on it. They don't like it that hot. So if you keep those things up, as we indicated before, that should help you keep the varmints, if you will, or the undesirables out of your compost pile. So you can try that, but I can't impress the fact that the attention you have to pay to that compost, and for several reasons, but one important one, you're going to grow something and you're going to feed your family. It has to be quality. It has to be. I don't want to scare you. What you're doing is great. I think that's what everybody should be doing, but you have to follow a certain criteria, a certain protocol onto the composting stage that needs to be done. And try a small one. Those barrels work pretty good. You get enough air, as I indicated before. And there's this crank, it's got an open top. You can put it in there. And when you first get it, don't wait to process until you fill it. It may take you a week or two to fill or more. Close the lid, turn it, add some to that. And when you get it full, now that's your starting date. That's the starting date you can start. The others are just to prevent it from rotting or attracting insects or whatever now. So just keep turning that one until you fill it, and then close it up, start another one, and then keep that one continued. That'll help tremendously.
Can talk about the different soil mixtures you have
Yes.
and what they're good for, and some of the ones that can help with retaining moisture in the soil during this drought.
Yes, on the soils, there are different ones for different applications. We make some that are a propagation mix when you want to start seeds and start your own starter plants. Propagation, well, it's a good shot of sphagnum peat moss. We use cocoa. I don't have a whole lot of what's the point? I don't have that whole much faith on the cocoa peat because it's a renewable product. You can use it in a lot of things, but it took a couple of 100,000 years to get the sphagnum peat, going, or less than that actually. But the cocoa peat comes from shorelines and they absorb the salt. So unless they're washed and the EC, the salinity in it is dropped, then you're dealing with the high salinity content. The cocoa peat has, not cocoa peat, rather the sphagnum peat moss starts with 4.5 to 5.5. That's really acidic. When you add other things to it, and you'll climb it up. You'll climb it up to a point where that your instrument will read 6.5, 6.6, 7.2, whatever it is, and you're right there for the cross section. And some of the other products, we do for azaleas and camellias, those that are acid-loving plants, you need to put an acid material in front of them to plant them in. They'll do better on that. The others that don't, you can lessen the pH on that and bring it down to 6.5, 6.7, something like that. But because you got to keep them about 6 or below, you get some good results out of them. Any more questions?
Where do you buy the pH test?
Oh,
Oh,
pH meter.
pH meters.
Yeah.
There's There's one locally. Let me get Frank the address. You can get him here locally. I think there's one in Garden Grove, Westminster off 22. You can get those. I originally sent mine when I was 42. From back east, New Jersey. They manufacture it there and they distribute it out. It's a nice one. It's a little costly, but you know, I've had that one for I bought a new one and I've had that one for about 18 years. And if something, it's a matter of replacing the batteries, what you don't want to do is like I do, you pack it away, forget to shut it off and the battery, you know, goes bonkers. So you shut it off, you come back and make sure, hey, did I unplug it? Yes. Did I turn the battery off? Yes, I did. But you can send it back to them and they will do a calibration. They give you a list of items on a piece on paper there that show you how to calibrate it. You have to recalibrate it again. And if it's something a little more intricate, you can send it back, because I've done a couple of times, and they will recalibrate, take it up, clean it up, hey, you're good to go. It's how you take care of it. Take care of it and follow the instructions, and it'll last you a long, long time.
Okay, but more on your soil.
Yes,
More on your soil mix. You were talking about the starter for seeds,
yes.
and then you. So,
Oh, the continuation on that, yeah. You can do other compost. What you try to do is the propagation is expensive, because usually a lot of sphagnum peat moss that has gone up substantially in the last year or so. You can use the whatever the pH in that. You can use different organics, pretty much generic ones to raise just about most anything. We have a naturalized fir. You put a plant in it, because we neutralize it with nitrogen to start it, because wood takes a lot of nitrogen out of it. So bacteria need the nitrogen and little is available in that to break it down. That's their gasoline in the tank, and not paying $5 a gallon either for it. Sorry to say, but it's a the bacteria will need that nitrogen. That's their gasoline in the tank to be able to process that, and that's why you have to put it in there to get it done. And it has a lot of nitrogen and some other nutrients in it also. I put a plant in it, and it did pretty darn well considering it had nothing else in it. Just I used to use 4600. They don't make it anymore, but now it's 2700. You can use that to turn it, water it, and it liquefies, and then it impregnates the wood particle. So it always has it, and when you use it, it releases it. It releases it in the plant. Of course, you need some other micronutrients, phosphorus and potassium and something else, you know. But yeah, we have for acid-loving plants. We have a product in there called a D-Mix. I made that for Disney about 40 years ago, because what was happening also for UCI, what happened is people smoked a lot. You come in the building, go put the cigarette, they don't put it out, they just lay the cigarette on top. And we were providing a lot of 0 to 2, the top ones for them anyway, and some other companies. And they, what happens is at UCI, you put the cigarette there and it took off, not fire, but smoke. And somebody reported, and the guy, he was embarrassed, because about 10 minutes later, he had 5 fire engines right at his place. He said, how am I going to explain this? You know, so we made that so you can grow a plant. It'll grow citrus. It'll grow any plant because it's well drained. You put it in, you can put your cigarette out there, you're a smoker, and you don't have to worry about contaminating. You don't have to worry about it flaming up or smoking. That's why in the big boxes, you go inside the doors. It works pretty good. It's pretty universal. That one is about as universal as they come.
so would that be a ground cover, or would that be the plants would actually be planted?
That's an actual planting of plants in it. You can't use it as ground cover, because people want to see the pumice and a few things laying around. It's not a good sight. You want something that's colorful and appealing. And has a good structure to it, but it's made to be good in pots or backfilled in a hole when you go in an avocado or a citrus trees in clay.
Okay, and then will that be good for long-term use? For like if you're planting an avocado tree or something like that?
It's good. I'm sorry, I didn't quite.
Would it be good for a long-term use, like an avocado tree or something?
Yeah, for long-term use, like an avocado tree, yeah, we plant them in. What I do is I dig a hole bigger than that, and when I'll put some handful of gypsum, just a handful, one pill, not 5 pills, because then you get calcium sulfate, and you put water and you get sulfuric acid out of that. That's what dissolves the sodium in the clay, so that you have porosity.
Wait,
Yes,
that's important because it dissolves the sodium in the water, I mean, in the soil
yes.
with gypsum. Really?
And then it's also calcium. If there's calcium in the plant, you and I need calcium as human beings, and that's part of our makeup. And the plant also takes the calcium because they have to have a balance of 5-to-1 calcium magnesium to get that balance, and they can utilize it.
So if my soil is already too salty. And if I need to amend that, I use gypsum to
You can
neutralize?
use gypsum is slow on it. It takes a long time for it's more of the sulfur. It's a little bit problematic when people put too much in that sulfuric acid. Once you're H2O, that's what you come out when you add the water. So what I usually do on those items, I put them at the bottom. I mix gypsum with some of our planting items, but only at a small amounts. So it has it in the pond. It won't hurt it, but it'll help it. When you're in the bottom, I dig the hole, throw the gypsum, a handful of it, and then take a pickaxe or a bar, crack it so that you don't have a smooth surface where it'll all drain on one side. Every pocket will contain some gypsum. Then you put some sand on it, then you put the medium that you need to plant it. And what's happening is you're watering, the roots are not way down there, but when the water gets down there, it creates that solution that'll drain, break up the clay and put it down there. The salt does bind them, so does silt. If you don't believe it, or are salt mines. They don't leak. They don't leak. That's because they're tight. So that gives you an idea what it can do on a negative side and then a positive side. It's just it'll pick that up and allow it. You want it to percolate beyond the roots. The roots are coming down. This is percolating, opening the ground, so the roots can overtake that area and grow in it. The solution to it.
You put it on the bottom instead of mixing into.
No, you can mix it. As I indicated, you can mix it. This is preempting the soil below you. Because if you don't do that, you may get a real tight soil and then it'll hold water. And then the roots come down into it eventually. And then you've got a pocket of water there, which will be detrimental to your plants and the root development for your plant. So a little bit at the bottom, a little bit with the mixture. Go lightly, even lighter with the mixture. Because you can always add at the top. A year later, as you're short on gypsum, would you sprinkle a little bit, till in a little bit and water it in. Now you've got more on that interface going down. It'll work well. We use a lot. In fact, we use it for Irvine on the clay soil, 1 to 2 tons per acre. We mix it in with the amendment that we're using, put it in there, and you apply it on the soil, and it gets the gypsum at the same time. And it puts it to one application. You don't have trucks going for one application and another, because then they start getting compaction in the fields and they have to come back and rip it up again to loosen it up and get some drain. So we mix it together and sort of one application, the whole thing. Yeah, in the mixture, a little bit down at the bottom, a little bit heavier, but not much more. Set this one up. Usually set it off. Any more?
Okay, well, and
By the way, I have a real nice phone. This is ideal for me. It doesn't, I have one of the others, and I either sat on them or I dropped them, or every time I got out of my pocket, I hit that red button, and then about 2 minutes later, I said, "Do you need some help? Do you need an ambulance?" And no, I don't need it. And that's why, yes, no,
I just got a text of a question.
yes.
Do wood chips steal nitrogen from plants? And if so, exactly how?
Bacteria need nitrogen. We put nitrogen in our amendment, so it has enough mustard and hot dogs for the whole party. If you don't have enough nitrogen, as I indicated, the bacteria will steal it. And the only thing available there, if you don't have enough of the amendment, they'll steal it from the soil. Yes, they will deprive the soil to get it back to 2 or 3 months after the plant has gone through its stages of turn or whatnot. Yes, they will take the nitrogen from the existing soil. They'll break it down. They're pretty good buggers. They'll take anything that's available because they can do it. That they need.
So-
I have some dragon fruit,
Mhm.
and it's not flowering. So someone has suggested I put more
phosphorus.
Well, I will be honest with you. I don't know much about it. First time I got introduced to dragon fruit was from Frank. He could probably tell you what you might want to do or can do.
I can't, son. Usually a lot of times when you're not getting flowers, it can be actually too much water.
Mhm.
You're not, the plants, to get flowers, you need a little bit of stress, so they get into reproductive mode. If you're watering it too much, you get a lot less flowers.
And if you're not watering, same thing too. Plants are like mothers, nature has told them, if you have enough, you can have offspring. If you don't, no offspring, because the mother has to survive. The plant has to survive. So it doesn't give it can't receive those nutrients and be able to provide offspring, which is fruit and anything else on it. I would check on the internet. That's a most inexpensive way of getting information, from experienced people. You call a lab, there's a charge and so forth. And half the time the lab won't give you that because you're not paying them to do something.
And we're going to have a speaker who's an expert on dragon fruit pretty soon.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
So, but let's go over the soils
Okay.
more,
All right, go ahead.
because not one size fits all. There's fill soils, topsoil C, 80-20, sandy humus, and then there's the planter mix that you mentioned, and then container mix, and that for plants.
Yeah, you don't, Frank's asking on the different applications, the different amendments. We have a container mix that's like a plant mix, but we added a little bit of soil to it. Because we found out that, as we talked earlier, about watering and then leaching out the nitrogen and the nutrients. And a little bit of soil, you can't even see the soil in it, it's so minute, but it's there. What it does, it holds the water. If it holds the water and moisture, it'll hold the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash. And also it gives it a little more ability to root out, because it's not fun.
So, and back on the, someone messaged about the dragon fruit is prune back the dragon fruit, which make sure to prune your dragon fruit new growth tips, which helps induce fruiting. I guess you trim the end of the
I did
branch.
that.
You did that already.
Okay.
Okay, young lady did that on the pruning. Anybody have another suggestion as to what might be the answer to the plant producing? You can, I'm sure she'd be happy to receive some additional information.
Yeah. So, and oh, does someone have a question? Okay. No. But I would check how often are you watering the dragon fruit?
Hardly, and because it doesn't need it, right?
Well, no, dragon fruits need water.
It's water.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I water it, but not often.
She grows how many varieties?
I have 16 big pots.
Let me call you back,
They're
okay?
really everywhere. So
Yeah.
I'll share with you.
Also,
my
what
mix.
variety do you have?
I don't know what it is.
Okay, there's a problem with that.
It's
Some-
pink, it's like really rich and magenta.
Right. They call it red dragon fruit. Or
Yeah,
white dragon fruit. Red
so-
is sweet. Yeah.
But the variety of dragon fruit can differ on how much it
Well, there are
flowers.
different varieties of dragon fruit.
Yeah, some can not do much flowering, and some may do a ton.
Are they from different areas of the world, or why would they be so different?
Just different types, because like when you grow dragon fruit and you plant this in it, normally people propagate it by cutting, so you get the same variety.
Mhm.
But if you grow it from a seed of any of them, they're not true to type.
I
So
see.
you'll have like 1,000, 1,500 seeds in one dragon fruit. And if you plant those, you will have 1,000 to 1,500 different variations. And one variation could have more flowers than another variation. And like the ones you get from Home Depot, they don't really say what variety they are. They just said red dragon fruit. Well, that's like saying a four-door car. And you don't know the characteristics of that variety. That's why people want specific varieties, because then they know, oh, Shayna is for one universal pollen. It pollinates with other stuff. Or maybe has a lot of flowers. Maybe it's early season, maybe late season, depends on the variety.
Mhm.
So,
Then we just, we have to move microphones because it's important for questions, and you pointed it out.
yeah,
I'm answering something that they don't know what the question is, and I think it would be great if you had a microphone, you could ask the question, and maybe listening to us, we'll be able to get some information. You don't have any? Okay, that's good. Frank will do it. Yes, ma'am.
I've heard pine shavings are not good for mulching, and there are people who just, just use that. I get it free from the nursery. They offer it for free, pine shavings. So is it good or bad for the soil?
Well, yeah, I look at,
we'll repeat the question.
oh, I'm sorry. Oh, a young lady indicated that pine shavings, good or not good for plants and so forth. Evidently, it's available for, as a medium. I don't know much about them, but I have noticed that under pine shavings and eucalyptus trees, nothing else is growing underneath them. So if they have a restricted point, they are good for their particular plant because they're acidic. And they do contribute to it, but to other plants, I think it would be detrimental. You'd have to kind of take a look, and hopefully somebody or the question would give a little input on that topic.
Well, from my experience dealing with pine shavings take a long time to break down.
Yes.
So, and then they become more of a mulch layer, blocking other stuff from growing underneath that
Mhm.
as a normal molding. Eucalyptus tends to put oils, chemicals, whatever it is in the soil that deters plants from germinating from seed or growing. So under eucalyptus trees, you won't find much growth, but then the pine trees with their thing would prevent it just because it's a barrier and it's slowly breaking down. And I don't know if during that time, if it's releasing stuff, eventually, if it's fully broken down, it should be very good because it's more acidic. But then again, the time period you're talking about, I've heard people using it where they're literally just putting it in plastic bags and waiting for it to break down in a couple years.
Yes.
And I tried it and it was sort of annoying because it was taking so long. There's a lot of other stuff to break that I could break down faster.
Yeah, to make it available. If there's a barrier there, I can see where, if you don't get a photosynthesis or whatever not, to help that either seed or something else coming up or plant, you can see where that would be detrimental to the growth of the plant. That,
But
again,
it's a mulch to cover the ground.
it's a mulch for the pine tree. Like avocado leaves are great mulch because they're acidic also, and they help the avocado retain the moisture. And simply in the unique case of the avocado, all the feeder roots are at the very top 3 inches. So they need that to keep the sun from drying them out, and they break down, give it a cover and hold moisture when you irrigate it. So they have, Mother Nature has basically implemented those steps in it. Not bad, huh? Right? So we have someone leaving here,
I do have to run.
so we understand.
But,
You're
We
welcome.
won't take it
No,
personally.
but I want to thank you for coming. A lot of great information. Small token of appreciation is 2 universally accepted symbols for compost.
Hey,
No buttons.
thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Appreciate it. Nice seeing you, meeting again. I'll look forward to seeing you again.
My pleasure. I'm going to send some customers your way.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I wanted to get some information out. I'm not here, in all respect to you, Frank, I'm not here to promote our business. It's that I run across people every single day that they need just a little bit of a helping hand in order to be successful with it. And it doesn't take much, because if you sit and explain, then they get a snapshot of what they have to do or need to do. And it's successful with it, some just are not able to put it together, but you give them a hand and they do great. And it's something that they want to do, or else they wouldn't class or come here and say, how can I grow a plant? I have a secretary who says she does not have a green thumb. There's not a darn thing she can grow. And she's been true up to now.
Okay.
It's consistency. You water the plant, feed the plant, so forth, they forget about it, and the plant takes the loss.
And I,
Thank
Yeah,
you.
right. Okay, Take care. Yes.
I know you want to do the information, but we are also plant growers. And one of the biggest things we need when we're using plants is soil, for various times amendments,
Mhm.
ground covers. Sometimes we don't have enough leaves that fall down that are good enough for this. So then you carry it, your company does carry this stuff.
Yes.
And then for me as a grower, I want to know like, okay, for dragon fruit usually does pretty good in cactus mix. That's what I find. Ramiro Lobo, who's like one of the gurus on it, he might differ, but I just seem to find cactus mix grows pretty good. And then you have special mix as your D mix, which you spoke of. Then you have cactus mix. Then you have large palm mix. And then you have athletic field mix, but who cares about that? Because
Guy plays golf.
yeah. Well, he shouldn't be playing
Or
golf. He
grows
should be
his turf.
growing fruit trees.
Okay.
Okay. And then like the soil, top soils, the fill soil, and then what are the differences between those?
Well, fill soil is we asked the gentleman also what the different types of soils and what they're going to be used. Fill soil is that what it is. It's a sandy loam soil that we carry. It is it's classified as sandy loam. You can use it to fill a hole or low spots in your landscape or whatever, or fill a ditch or whatever. It's that quality. The quality about it is, then if you decide to plant in it, yes, you can just amend it because it's a plain soil. You amend a little bit and you can plant something in it, a little pack and fill a hole and so forth.
And when you say amend,
Oh, you can put a little compost on it, till it up and plant what you want, whatever you want to plant.
so let's say I'm going to fill in a hole that's 3 feet by 3 feet by 6 feet, so 2 yards.
Mhm.
And I wanted to put that sandy loam soil and something else to amend it. What do you think I would need? And let's say I'm planting avocados.
Avocados, I would use the humus because the humus, as opposed to like GPS2, is well, it's a regular compost. You can use this anywhere. The humus is, we take it a few legs forward more. It's a well mature compost that's ready to feed and ready to add nutrients to the soil. It's already broken down. It's like you mix it with the soil and you pull it out. If you can actually physically pull it out after mixing with the soil, 3 months later, that's what it is. It's already broken down, ready to go.
But what ratio would you use for that? Like
You can use, the same thing as the other, an inch or 2 inches and rototiller with 6.
okay, so just let's say fill in the hole with the sandy loam and then just put a little bit of the stuff on top.
Yeah, and then mix it in so you can get some down in the root zone.
Okay.
We get some action and activity in there. And then, as a matter of fact, humus is being requested in a lot of projects because it's ready to go. That's a little more pricey because what it is, you have 50% shrinkage. If you take that bucket, one of the 15-gallon buckets, and grind up some compost and put it into the time you get the humus, you got half the bucket. But it's concentrated and it'll help you move the project along real well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
Topsoil C there.
yeah, the top 12C.
The topsoil C that we have used is an 80% mixture of soil with 20% compost and some nutrients in it. So if you want to plant a lawn or you want to fill in some holes around your tree, so you can put that material on. You have some soil. I prefer to put some soil, especially if the divots are deep, because then you can grow in it and the roots start coming out and the roots will stay below. People want to cover the roots with a little cosmetic approach to it. That has the nutrients, and if you want to plant some flowers in there, just get some planter mix, dig a hole into that soil and plant your flowers and give you color.
Okay.
That's your mineral backup in your soil.
And then, okay, sandy soil humus, it's 50-50. What would that be used for? Because that seems like it would sink after the mulch breaks down.
Yeah, it would, but you'd be surprised how many people want the 50-50. I, to some extent, discourage it sometimes because it's too much organic. You only need a 15% organic to reach what the farming specs require as 3 to 5% organic in it. Any more than that, yeah, you're right, it'll decompose and go down. But if it's an open area that's not supporting a turf or whatnot, you're okay because you can add a little bit more and whatnot until it slows up. But yeah, I wouldn't use it under a lawn or anything that I want nice and flat and looking. There's too much organic in it, but it's a popular item. real rough.
It might be popular just because it's easier for them to transport. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, it's a little lighter. Topsoil seed is about 2,000 pounds to, or a little less than that, to a yard. And the 50-50 is about 1,500, a little lighter.
Yeah.
And people make a choice of taking the 50-50 sometimes, and I because it's lighter and they can handle it better in the pickup. Forget about how it's going to give me a result on my project, and it's lighter, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I want it heavier.
Yeah, no, it is, because you have the soil there, and it's a sandy loam. It's the predominant particle size is sand, so it's considered a sandy loam. And so is a 50-50 for that matter.
Yeah.
We use the same soil.
Did you have a question?
Is that a question?
And then there was a couple other questions I had
Sure.
regarding, this is what I heard previously on something else, was when you buy some container plants from, let's say, Home Depot, Lowe's, or whatever,
Mhm.
a lot of times the soil in there isn't really soil, it's more pure compost.
Yeah,
And a
peat
lot,
moss, like, yeah.
and a lot of times they'll put in wood chips and like cedar or redwood, just because it's retains the moisture more and it's slowly breaking down. But then once you get it in the ground, then it's rotting, and that becomes a detriment. And like you're saying, maybe the nitrogen will be pulled away from the soil while it's doing that.
Well, yeah, that can happen. The thing about it is the nitrogen won't be pulled out. If you're added, the one you're mixing with and planting it has enough nitrogen where it can share the whole barbecue and picnic with everybody else. So nobody's out there looking, I'm going to take your nitrogen, do this and do that. There's enough in that soil to be able to accommodate every creature that's there. So it's not going to go down on it. And that's what they raised it in. It's a peat moss blend with perlite, vermiculite, and a few other things on it to hold the moisture. I plant them in a bucket or whatnot, or in the soil. I leave that in there and then just mix the soil around it. And I need it with some other organic, and they'll grow right out of that and into the soil and so forth, because that's what's holding the moisture, and they're after the moisture and nutrients.
Okay.
It works out pretty well, pretty well.
Okay. And then another question I had
Yeah.
was, I know somebody who had a hole that was 6 feet deep by about 5 around. And he got the guys who bring in the tree trimmers who grind up trees and stuff, whatever is that called, mulch,
Mhm.
and he got it, and he filled the hole with it. That was sort of an idea, because
bad
for
idea.
one thing, it's not moving and it's just disappearing, and I don't think you can anything in there long term until that breaks down.
Yeah, it breaks down and then the hole sinks. And then you know what? It sinks, keeps going down. You add soil on top of it to accommodate that. The bottom sinks, and you put more soil, the bottom sinks a little more. And you'll be continually doing that for some time. So the best thing to do is eliminate. Also, when you bring in the tree trimmings like that fresh, they'll compost faster, they'll drop faster. And hopefully that in that vertical point of material, you don't have oleander or something that might be poisonous to the plant. You really have to know what you're getting. That's not the way to do it. It's just, you create more of a problem later.
Yeah, because from what you said also about the temperature, it will never, would it ever hit the 130 temperature in this environment?
No, but you mix it with dirt, put it down there. No, it'll just biodegrade right there. It'll biodegrade and just drop.
And any bad seeds or whatever pathogens in there, it's still going to retain it.
Well, what it'll do is, no, the seeds will decay. You won't have any seeds coming up unless you have something on the top surface that you've incorporated. That's probably your best bet, is that they'll grow in the top 2 inches or inch and so forth. But at the bottom is biodegrading, just keeps sinking and sinking and sinking. It's just not, yeah.
But like if there's a bad fungus in there.
It'll be in there. It'll be there. Yeah. I think it hasn't gone through any heat to kill any weed seed, to kill any pathogens or anything like that. So it's coming full circle. It's not a good idea. Not a good idea. There's too much organic in one spot.
And how many years do you think he'd have to deal with that just breaking down naturally?
Depends on the depth of the hole. I would say
6 feet, not moving.
I'd say 4 or 5 years, 6 years.
You think that little?
No, it might be more. It depends on the makeup of the feedstock. Some break down a little faster than others, especially if they've been chipped fine. If they've been coarse, it'll last a long, long time. because the bacteria need a chip real fine to get into it and decompose it. It'll go fast.
Yeah, I'm just wondering with because doesn't the bacteria need more air? You think it would be able to get the air down that deep?
Yeah, what you'd have to do is dig a hole in the tunnel and put a hose in there and feed it with air to get the oxygen. That's what they do in most of the compost now. They add the air to it. They just leave it static and pump air from the bottom and it rises up. It's not. It's a little more expensive. That means the amount of cost rises dramatically. You have too much mechanical items in there to make it happen.
And is that not a fire risk when they push air through there like that?
No, because they take the temperature on it and it gets close to say 160 or 70 because they haven't turned. They are forced to turn that, aerate it, and then the temperature drops.
Okay, yeah,
So
'cause
it's
I
good.
was just wondering because like when I was taking welding stuff, dust in the air increases the surface area, which can they actually ignite. So if they're pushing air through it, that's why I was just wondering.
No, it's been pretty much calculated on it. Just air, just enough air to get the oxygen in there and keep it moist. And then they turn it. If they need to, then they're allowed to turn it.
Okay.
It's expensive because then what you have to do when you seal it up, you have to get finished compost, cover the whole top of that pile, so it insulates the pile and doesn't let the air escape so readily.
Okay.
And you get 1,000 yards. Figure your labor having to get it up there. You can do it with a loader, big one, telescopic load, and put it up, and then you have people spread it or sprinkle it by hand in order to get every nook and cranny covered. That becomes a lot of labor intensive. So we do the turning, so a lot easier.
Okay.
Can we call you? If we think of any questions.
Sure, certainly you can. You can call the office, you can call me, or talk to me.
What number can we call?
You can call that,
The number.
yeah, 949-786-9558.
Okay,
Yeah, you can call that number.
and just ask for Roger.
Yeah, I'm there, yeah, right, or one of the, I call them kids because they're about 40 years younger than I am, but yeah, you can talk to them. They're pretty well versed on the materials and what to do.
Okay, all right, cool.
Let me see.
I may not think of everything, I know I will have more questions.
Oh,
later.
sure, no, you're welcome to call, absolutely.
Oh, and then somebody online asked any tips for orange or pomegranate trees.
Do we have anything for a pomegranate tree?
Yeah.
What, they're gonna plant it or they're gonna put it around an existing one?
Let's either one. Let's say they're gonna plant it or they already have an
Well, yeah,
existing.
we have what we call 1/2 to 1.5. It's a 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches long. They can put it around the top of around the top of the soil to stay away from the trunk. We encourage them not to put it up against the trunk because when you water, moisture travels laterally also and get on there and start a fungus on the tree trunk and whatnot. So stay 6 inches away from it. You're covering 90% of it, 85-90% of where the roots are, and retaining moisture, keeping the weeds from coming up.
And that one has the mulch size
Yeah,
between 1/2 inch to 1.5.
yes, I think it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how thick? You said 2 inches or?
2 inches. And this is another thing where the pill comes in there. 2 inches is max. Don't put 5 or 6 because then you get too much moisture trapped in there and it'll create the fungus
Okay.
in the soil. So you can put 2 inches and then in the fall, maybe if it's a little low, put another 1/2 inch or 1 inch on top of it. It'll
Okay.
and then the neat thing about that, it'll biodegrade eventually and keep adding organic to the layers you have down. So it's, once it disappears, it really hasn't disappeared. It's now a direct benefit to the plant and the soil underneath.
And then over time, keep adding more.
Yeah, a little bit more. Don't go to 3 or 4 inch. It's
Yeah.
not, you're wasting money and you're developing a potential of too much moisture trapped in there, which would have a negative impact on the tree or shrubs.
And then like if you had smaller pieces ground up as a cover, that would probably hold in too much moisture. You think?
Yeah, that's why we limit to 2 inches. You have enough aeration coming out. You dry it a little, you get enough air. Put it too thick, it compacts, and then you trap the moisture there. You're not getting air. It takes longer for it to decompose and give you a benefit. But yeah, I wouldn't put more. And what it happens, a 1/2 to 1.5 is very popular for home use because it's smaller, more uniform, and it lays down better. The 2 inches usually for commercial buildings or slopes, bigger stuff where the wind doesn't blow it because it's bigger and heavier.
Okay. And
No more than 2 inches of mulch?
2 inches is usually the parameter that you want to use. You can go a little bit more, but certainly not into the 3 or 4.
You said water, like not on the base of the.
Yeah, don't put the mulch up against the tree trunk or the shrub because it'll transfer the moisture laterally onto the trunk and you get some fungus and so forth on the tree. So that has to remain dry.
And then on here, you have forest for humus, and then it says 1/4 inch minus for sandy soil. What does that mean?
1/4 inch minus.
Yeah, it
Did
says,
you make that again?
what?
Read it again.
It says,
Forest for humus.
yeah, and then it says 1/4 inch minus for sandy soil.
Oh. It's found up 1/4 minus. It's real fine.
Oh, okay.
It's
So
fine
that's
and
what it-
screened to that. And that for sandy soil, that'll trap more moisture on the sandy soil.
Yeah, because the sandy evaporates more.
Yeah, right. The bigger particles will just evaporate and you'll get some benefit, you might, but not as much as you get with the 1/4 minus
Yeah,
material.
so the other stuff would be best for clay.
Yeah.
And then, yeah,
Right.
okay. Let me see nobody question? No?
Okay,
Thank you.
you're
Okay,
more than welcome.
thanks,
Oh.
Roger.
We'll redo this again in the microphone and I'll give you the other, I'll bring over some more material and pages that you can ask for gardening and so forth. That's basically our lineup there at the retail stores.
Okay. Cool, and just to cover your place, you have 2 locations that do stuff in Irvine, near Jamboree and
Veranca,
in construction service.
and construction circle, and then we have the one where processing plant is in Silverado.
But can people pick up stuff there?
They can pick up stuff there also. And then we have one on Grove Street in Orange. It's not on this one, but yeah, we've had it a couple of years. This is an old building I got,
Yeah.
but basically, yeah, it's on Grove Street and in Orange, next to the, in fact, we leased out the old Budweiser building. We have it indoors.
Okay,
So it does a good job on there.
And-
Need an appointment to go?
No, you can go in there
and,
anytime
and they take you need to have a pickup truck,
or a trailer, little
Yeah.
trailer.
and they take a scoop and they dump it in. And what I do is when I have my pickup truck, I'll bring the 15-gallon plant containers and line them up in the bed of the truck. And when they dump it, they're filling them up. So instead of taking 2 hours plus to unload the truck, it's like 25 minutes,
You just drag the containers out.
and then scoop out whatever's left.
Yeah.
And it's really quick. Plus, and then I just go stack the containers, and
Adjacent to where you're going to utilize it.
yeah, and it's then you use a 2-wheel dolly to move the containers.
Yeah.
So it makes it really easy and fast.
If Frank's got it to a science, call him, he'll do it for you. He has nothing better to do.
Yeah.
He works out here from midnight to, to early morning.
Are you two from this Tierra Verde? here?
Tierra-
Are you separate companies?
Yeah, we do the same thing. But no, it's
No,
okay.
no.
We do the same thing on, they provide products also and we provide same type products.
Well,
Okay,
except
but
for-
it's similar business.
Well,
Yes.
it's similar, but one thing is they don't have as much variations. They mainly focus on mulches, and their highest amount of soil mixture is 50% sand to, or whatever, to compost. That's their highest percentage. They don't have, what is yours, 15% compost or 20% compost to sand?
Yeah,
Sandy
to
loam.
the soil, yeah. You get too much organic in there and then you wind up with sinking. You generate the same problem that you had initially and that you had to refill. Like I said, some people like a 50-50 or more, but so much organic and it will go down again.
Yeah, and also they take in not only stuff from gardeners, but they also take construction materials.
Oh, really?
And some of that construction materials is 2x4s. Yes. So depending,
They're treated
I'm
with
pre-
chemicals.
yeah, so I'm pretty sure they're going to be pulling some of that wood to their compost pile. I would expect.
I can't say what they do, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just assuming because of the mandates of the state regarding trying to reuse materials versus going to a landfill, they would almost be forced to do it. But then they can't test every piece of wood of 2x4,
No,
but they would look at a 2x4 and, oh, it looks okay. Throw it in the compost grinder
Yeah, what they have to, you can see it because it has those impressions on it
Well,
for the
but that-
thermo.
That does.
But the other thing is that they grind it, just take a sample. If it's good wood, bad wood, want to take a sample, get it tested, and it shows, it might, on some people do, it might show up those contaminants in, we don't take any of that. We just, we found out a long time ago.
Don't worry.
I don't know. They're saying, because Home Depot, you can rent a flatbed truck at some of the locations.
Yes,
And I don't know what the cost is of that, but so someone could do that and you could, you have to watch the weight. You have to check the weight capacity of the truck. Because like my neighbor went and they bought some soil from Aguinaga and it was heavy. And the guy, they bought a couple yards and the truck couldn't move. So they had, at the place, they had to scoop off half of it and then come back later. And then,
usually in the rental trucks, they have a buzzer. When you reach the maximum weight, that buzzer goes on. So that's what we use, and that's when we just cut it off there. If there's something left in the orders, you're welcome to come back. We will refill that order, the balance of that order. But it goes on. Let me give you an idea. We had, and it's happened a couple of times, a gentleman and his wife would come in to get some soil. And this one, it happened. And so we have to just pour. Hopefully it takes the whole bucket without it signing off the buzzer. So she was in the truck and then it's fine. The yard went in there. He opened the door, got in the truck and the buzzer went off. She said, I told you to go on a diet. But anyway, yeah, it will go on. And that's an indication to you that that's enough. And we usually, as a rule, guide that simply because you have people with their own pickups. If they want 3 yards, I'll take it. It'll be, no, I said, we can't take the liability or responsibility. You'd be happy to refill the order when you come back. If you're short a yard, come back. You don't have to go to the office, take your paper to the guy that loaded you. He wrote down what he took and said he will fill the balance right away. You can be on your way. But you really have to watch, especially soils. They're close to a ton per cubic yard.
yeah, and one time I picked up in my pickup truck and mine is just an old Ford Ranger and it
Mhm.
can't take much more than 1,000 pounds.
Right.
And I had to remove the mud flaps and had to add some extra air to the tires to move.
Yeah.
Because
It
the
gets
mud,
up there.
they were hitting an inch lower than the soil. They were bent.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the other way, yeah, that's something you have to be watching because it's that you don't have full control of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're very careful on that. And we just sort of that's it. You turn it off, come back and get the rest.
Yeah, plus it's dangerous for the vehicle.
People out there listening, thank you for taking the time. We will try and get a little more information to you on the next one, which I'm happy to come down at any time. We'll get some more information and we'll try and get a microphone for those answering the questions so you can know what we're answering. That's more beneficial to you. Again, thank you very much. You have a great afternoon and we'll hope to see you again next time. Take care. Okay.
I don't yet because we're new. We're a new chapter of California Refrigerator.
Okay.
But it's did you join through the email system? Okay, we're the South California Refrigerator. If you want to write it down. Okay. Do you have a pen?
Take this one.
Okay.
So what is those bins for?
Well,
These are free containers.
to members of the club.
Oh,
we
I'm
make
not a
them-
member though.
Yeah, we make them available to the members.
Okay.
So they can use it for all sorts of applications, and we're getting them reoccurring. Because since we're a 501 C3 nonprofit, we're trying to work with more entities and having them support us as well. And then we're also giving benefits to the members.
What do you use it for?
Oh, my goodness.
You can use them for
There's so many
soil,
good use. This is
for
clean
pottery.
containers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I use it for
Roger.
like bags of fertilizers, you know, some pellets or, you know. And I had a lot of,
I'll show you.
talking about,
I felt discouraged because
where do you live?
just down here 2 miles away. in
Yeah,
Oak Creek.
give me.
Okay.
So here's a picture.
Sí.
I'm
How
gonna
long
show
you've
to you.
had those plants?
Okay,
Ok,
this is
está
how
bien,
it looked.
está bien,
This was a year.
está bien.
Okay, everybody, thanks for attending. I'm going to shut down the Zoom meeting.
And then this is
Okay. Sorry for the glitches on that.
First of
Um,
all, it takes about 3 years.
Zoom actually had restarted twice, and that's why it
3 years to
glitched.
grow to certain thickness.
and we actually had a Wi-Fi connection, but just the Zoom program.
That's the first
You
thing.
know, I
Okay,
did
thanks.
that too. It was one my friend gave me. It's been-
If you guys want to talk together, you can. Nope. Let's see,
You know, I have two good friends,
Wait.
so they motivated me to grow and it's the same thing. And so I took.
Okay, I'm trying to get it to stop. Okay, there it is.